About 5 miles from me, there is a church where they used to torture animals and sacrifice children. Quite funny, the story for this. I found out about this back when I was in high school, although the events took place 10 years prior to that. I was walking with some friends during our town's Strawberry Festival, just a festival during the spring where we all just celebrate our town's local cash crop. All sorts of rides and funnel cake vendors show up, that sort of thing. Anyway, my friends and I are walking around at about 10 p.m. on the first day of the festival. We are just shooting the shit and we talk about the new Walmart that opened up. We were talking about the economics and logistics of their low prices, and I wanted to freak out this religious girl in the group. And so I said that Walmart sacrificed people to Satan to keep their prices low. I was just joking, of course, and to be clear, at that point, I did not know about the church. Anyway, we thought it was funny and thought nothing of it. Now, I'm the kind of guy that likes digging deeper into the things I talk about, even offhandedly or as a jest. So I Googled Walmart human sacrifices, and it came up with dead peasants insurance, which is a real thing that is completely fucked and you should totally look up.
Dead peasant insurance. Companies take out life insurance policies on their employees, then collect the death benefit when those employees die.
Anyway, I bring up DPI with my friends at school, and they think it's terrible too. But get this, I was talking about it in school, and that afternoon I was pulled out of class on the intercom to go to the office. I think it's for some forms or whatever, but I was wrong. They want me to meet with this man and woman in a suit. I have never seen either of them at the school, and this is my senior year, so at that point, I've been there for 4 fucking years. Anyway, they asked me why I was talking about Walmart. I just told them I came up with a cool theory about it that I shared with some friends. They asked me who those friends were. I made up some names, by the way. I'm not a snitch.
Walmart took secret life insurance policies out on employees, collected after their death. According to Court TV and the Tampa Tribune, Walmart has been secretly taking out life insurance policies on its employees and cashing them in when said employees pass away. July 3, 2007.
They flat out told me to stop talking about Walmart. Ain't that some shit? 2 fucking suits pull you out of class and tell you to stop talking about something? Anyway, I ride the bus home after school, and my mom tells me she got a call from the school that they recommended me be scheduled for a psychiatric appointment as soon as she could. Now listen, I am a little weird. I like Tabasco sauce in my noodles, and I like eggs on my burgers. But I'm not crazy. We go to this appointment, and we sit down and talk, and nothing really happens. She lets me go, and thinks the school is overreacting. On the ride home, my mom asked me why all this was happening anyway, and I gave her the quick rundown. She looked at me for a second, and then told me about the church. That church is only 1 mile away from Walmart. Fucking pottery, right? Anyway, I stopped talking about it because I didn't want to get V and buy some fucking Walmart corporate weirdos. I forget about it until the summer of 2017 when my dog Sadie, R.I.P., gets real sick, and I have to bring her to the nearest vet. That nearest vet is directly across the street from Walmart. I want to get my dog's body so I can bury her, and they tell me no. They say they already handled her. I say that's bullshit, and if I want to bury my dog, I'm going to bury my fucking dog. They said that they already put her in the cremator, and there's nothing I can do except get the ashes. I'm fucking pissed, but it's whatever. I'm not going to fight some vet over my dead dog. I promise there is a point to this vet side story. Just keep reading. There is a room on the side of the vet building facing Walmart that has been under construction since Walmart has been built. It is still under construction till this very day. And get this, there's a tunnel-like structure that goes from the Walmart to the vet building. Fucking weird, huh? Now, it ain't exactly common knowledge outside of the town, but members of the congregation that did that weird shit are still in the town to this very day. Now that we got the animal torture out of the way, I will provide the rather anecdotal evidence on the human sacrifices. Since the Walmart was built, there has been a noticeable decrease in the number of homeless people in our town. Sure, we still have your average crackhead walking about, but as for poor people that are down on their luck who need a job, not many. Many of those aforementioned poor people have died after acquiring a job at the Walmart under odd circumstances. The obituary usually says they die from drowning in our tri-monthly floods. We live in rural Louisiana, so this isn't unheard of. But think about it this way. They were surviving just fine being homeless through floods and inclement weather before they were unemployed. But they get a job at Walmart and forget how or when to get to shelter during the storms. I don't fucking buy it. They killed them.
April 2018. I'm 26, looking for a new job. I had worked at a pharmaceutical plant as a maintenance guy, but the plant shut down. I decide to move back to Illinois, where my parents live, in a small town called Cari. My only experience is in maintenance, so after settling in and using my last savings to move and rent a house, I apply at the local utilities branch. Days pass. A week, 2 weeks, and then I get a phone call. Woot! It's a guy named Paul, the director of maintenance for the city. He says they need a guy to maintain the city's youth center. Oh, okay. I don't have a whole lot of experience in that sort of environment, but fuck it. It's a job. Paul give me directions to the youth center, asks me to report in tomorrow at 11. Okay. That day, I head to the youth center. I meet up with Paul, who's an older guy, bald, mustache, looks like your typical custodian/maintenance guy. He tells me not very many people like working here, but I don't mind. He unlocks the door, hands me the key. Then he walks me in. My jaw drops. Inside the youth center are several tables set up in long rows, and on each table is about a dozen 30-year-old Dell Optiplex computers. I'm so shocked because these computers are basically ancient. If I were a kid, I wouldn't want to go here and use these things. It's also a very dusty, unclean environment. Just seems really weird. I ask Paul what exactly people do here. He tells me he doesn't know. The director is a guy named Chuck who used to work at a neighboring school district. Okay, so he kind of tells me what to do, how to clean the computers, where to wipe, etc. It's all really basic. I ask Paul what happened to the last guy who did this job. He quit. Why? Paul doesn't remember. Welp. So I go on my merry way, walking through the YC with Paul and going over the basics of janitorial service. That's day one. The next day I go in to clean the center at about 11 p.m. I'm supposed to clean from 11 to 4 a.m. 5 hours, and I get paid pretty decently. It's super easy, and I spend a lot of my time reading or listening to audiobooks or music. I still haven't met Chuck, nor do I ever see kids in here after school. Weird, but I don't ask questions, I just fucking clean. We get to day 15, 2 weeks on the job, and it's midnight. There is never any evidence that anyone comes in here except me. There is a bar down the road, and oftentimes I'm tempted to go and get shit-faced on the clock. But it's a decent job for very little work, so I never risk it. I'm in a chair by a computer reading some book, I think it was Jurassic Park, when suddenly the computer turns on. I freak out, afraid I hit something. I don't think I did. And then a prompt shows up on the screen. I see one word, hello. I have no idea what to do at this point. I've never seen one of these machines turned on. There is nothing inside this building except the tables, chairs, and computers. The only thing indicating the building's name is Youth Center, painted on the glass windows in front in green and pink paint. I just sit here staring at this prompt. Hello, nothing else. Hello. I decide to reach underneath and pull the plug. Maybe something's wrong with this shit. But then I see another line appear on the screen. Are you there? What? You? This is too freaky for me, so I unplug the computer and leave early for the night. The next morning I decide I want to meet Chuck, who runs the damn place. I call Paul, get his number. I call it straight to voicemail. Voicemail box has not been set up. Awesome. So I call Paul again and get his address. He tells me he's not supposed to give it to me, but he does anyway. I hop in my car, put it in my GPS, and drive out of the city and onto some back road. After about 20 minutes, I get to a giant-ass gate. At the top of the gate, it says Heavenly Grace Temple and Sanctuary. I'll just call it HGTS, because it's a bitch to type. So clearly I've put in the wrong address. Or have I? I decide to drive past the gate, which is open, and see what lies beyond. It's a long fucking driveway/path down a very steep hill. Eventually it gets so steep and curvy I feel weird driving on it. I get out and walk the rest of the way until I get to a large church. It's maybe the size of a large restaurant or something. I see a lot of trailers beyond the church in a field. Trailers, a filling station. It's like they've set up their own little town around this church. Weird. I feel uncomfortable now. But fuck. I approach the church, and surprisingly, I hear organ music. They're having service. Oh shit. I approach the church and peek in the window. It's weird as shit. It looks normal with pews and shit and an altar. But all the men are in the back and are wearing these dark green suits. The women are in front and they're wearing these weird veils. Suddenly, I hear a voice behind me. Can I help you? It's some woman wearing a creepy veil. I don't know what to say, so I run the fuck out of there. I'm like a fucking cheetah running so fast. I get in my car, turn around so fast I hit a tree, doing cosmetic damage to my car. And I ride out of there. I get home and call into work, but Paul's phone is dead or something, so I can't. Just to be safe, I decide to go in. I go to work, but I don't do too much cleaning. I start to get paranoid because this black SUV keeps passing the center every half an hour or so. I decide to call Chuck's number again, because I want to see what's going on. It rings, and rings, and rings, and then he picks up. He sounds kind of drunk, honestly. I don't really know what to say, so I just tell him who I am and ask him to come down. I want to talk to him. He slurs his way into some excuse about how it's too late. It is late, but I'm freaking out. I get angry and hang up on Chuck. I decide that when I get off work, I'll do some research myself. So that next day, I go to the local library and search their records. There is nothing, I mean nothing, in regards to the youth center. It might as well not exist, even though it's right there in town. So I decide to Google HGTS. And then, things get interesting. There are several newspaper articles from neighboring counties. All of them call HGTS a cult. Apparently, about 4 years prior, a young woman went missing and joined up with them. Some other weird shit. But how is this place linked up with the youth center? Only one way to find out. I go back to HGTS the next day. I park on the side of the road and make the trek down the driveway. This time, there is no service going on at the church, so I just walk in. I call out asking for Chuck by name. Kind of weird, but he's the only guy I know involved in this thing. The church is obviously empty, so I go back out and head back up to my car. Then, I hear someone calling my name. I turn around and it's this red-headed dude with a black beard. He introduced himself. It's Chuck. He asks if I need anything urgent, as service is about to start. I tell him there's nothing urgent, but I'd like to meet up with him at the YC that night to go over some stuff. He acts like this is the most normal thing to request in the world, and says he'll be there. I go to work that night, he's not there. I wait several hours, he's still not there. Then a computer turns on. Well, shit. Same prompt-looking screen. This time there's a full sentence. I've been reading Romans. The fuck? I know I could get in trouble, but fuck it, I respond, what? No response. Then another sentence appears. Brother asked me to read Romans. My response, who is brother? And then, radio silence. So work continues for 2-3 weeks. And then one night I get there, and the door is unlocked. I'm about to nope the fuck out of there, but curiosity gets the best of me. It's Chuck. He's drinking a Red Bull, sitting, seemingly waiting for me. Oh, hi. Chuck is seemingly very sober, unlike the last 2 times I spoke to him. He tells me he thinks I have some questions. And I do. So, I ask, what is this place? He tells me that about 20 years ago, the library got rid of its computer lab to upgrade their technology. The city decided to make a youth center for kids without computers to come play games and learn technology skills. This seems sort of far-fetched and weird, and I tell him I've never actually seen anyone here. Oh, he says, trust me, they're here when they need to be. That sounds very ominous. Chuck stands up and grabs me on the shoulder. I don't like being touched, and my instinct is to pull away. Listen to me, Anon. Coming to my place of worship is very unprofessional. Don't do that again. And then he leaves, and I stand there, and I wonder if I should even bother cleaning. I get the broom out of the closet, and I'm kind of freaking out. But then, I notice something. Under the chair Chuck was sitting in, it's a wallet. Specifically, Chuck's wallet. Oh shit. I hold on to it, even though I know I shouldn't. The first thing I look at is Chuck's ID. Turns out Chuck's real name is Simon. I won't do last names. You can Google after the fact. I drive to the library the next day and again search the records. Nothing. So I use a computer, a modern one by the way, and do a search for his name. And holy shit. Paul was right about one thing. He did work for a school system, and he was dismissed for reasons I won't get into. They are less than noble, however. No guy who gets fired from a job like he had would get hired to run a youth center. The mayor has to present all town hires to the town board. If I were the mayor, well shit. Cari is a small town and the mayor is basically just some guy. He is an elected official though, and he does have hiring power for town employees, along with the town board. So later that day, I go to the bar across from the YC, and I ask around about Chuck, and Paul, and the mayor. Turns out no one knows much about Chuck. Everyone knows Paul, and the mayor is somewhat of an enigma. One guy calls him a weirdo. What do you mean? He goes to that funny-looking church over yonder. So now I know how a guy like Chuck/Simon managed to get hired to run a YC that basically does nothing. But I feel like I have a mystery to solve, so that's what I do. I go to work like normal, and I turn on a computer for the first time. It's a prompt. Who is this? I type, Chuck. But then I delete it and type, Simon. There's a long pause. It's the wrong time. But I read the scripture. It was good. I really don't know what to type, and I'm a bit befuddled as to what exactly I should say. So I just type, okay. Then the response, I want to go and be with the family. Another one, I want to help any way I can. I want to know who I'm talking to and what the hell is going on. But I get spooked and I pull the plug on the computer. I get my phone out, call Paul, leave him a voicemail. That next night I go to work like normal, and I work my shift like normal. This goes on for maybe a month, no computer shit, no Chuck, Simon, whatever. But then I get a phone call from Chuck. He tells me not to worry about my shift the next night. He tells me some people are staying late. Oh, okay. So obviously I have to be there to see what the hell is going on. I never ever see other people in that building, and I have to know. So I come up with a plan. I go to the grocery store and load up on water and snacks. Here is my plan to hide in the closet the entire day until shit starts happening. I take my power drill over to the YC and drill a small hole, just big enough to look out of. I throw the drill in with the other tools, grab my snacks and water and shut the door, making sure to lock it before I enter. I guess I'll just have to kick it down or some shit when everyone leaves, but I can't have someone opening the damn door while I'm in there, so I sit and wait and wait and wait. I sit and wait, until finally I hear a rustling at the door. Oh shit. So I look into my little hole and sure enough, there's Chuck in one of the weird green suits, and two women wearing the creepy-ass veils, and then, more come, men in green suits, women with veils. By the time it's all over, there's like 30 people in the building, none of them youth by any means. I keep watching. I wonder if one of these guys could be the mayor. Jesus. Anyways, each person sits at a computer and logs on. The prompt appears, and then, like robots, each one starts typing away, and away. They just keep going. They type. Wait for a response. Repeat. I just stand there watching. I have to piss and shit because I've been here all damn night, but they just don't stop. There's a guy typing away very close to me, but I can't see his screen through this little hole. So I decide to wait it out. Wait for them to leave. Finally, they do. No one turns their computer off. No one says anything. They just stand up in unison and file out the door. I wait about 10 minutes and then try to kick the door down. It was a lot harder than I imagined, but I finally managed. I run up to the monitors to see what all's been typed. I won't quote what everyone said, but they clearly had a script memorized. To my best understanding, the idea here is that these guys were trying to recruit people to their church, but why the old computers? Why not do this from the church grounds? I take out my phone and take screenshots. I'm really nervous. Who exactly turns these computers off? Do they turn themselves off? Who are they talking to? Whoever? I put my phone up when I hear another rattling at the door. I run into the closet, but then I realize the door's fucked up. So I just cover the closet with the broken door and hope no one notices. I sit quietly. I don't even bother with the hole I drilled. It's dead silent for maybe 10 minutes. And then, off comes the door. I'm prepared to rock Simon's shit should he be there, but he's not. And then I hear his voice. "Come out, Anon. I have a gun." Oh shit. I go out, totally exasperated and expecting to die. It is Chuck, and he's no longer in his green suit. He's wearing like a wife beater, and he's holding a gun in his hand. He goes on this rant about how I'm being unprofessional and not doing my job properly, that he has to clean up the mess that I don't clean, that I'm lazy. Not once does he mention his nutty little cult. I'm pretty sweaty at this point and on the verge of tears. In the middle of his rant, I stop Simon/Chuck and ask him what the fuck everyone was doing just a little bit ago. Simon keeps talking, ignoring my question. Then he tells me that he's tired of people ignoring his religious beliefs. That time and time again, people have cast him out. Clearly, he is fucking bonkers. I keep talking over him, yelling, asking how the hell they communicate with the old computers. He ignores me. Then, in another delayed response, he says, "Well, why the fuck do you think Amish folks still ride horses and buggies?" Welp. I'm pretty sure at this point I'm going to die at the hands of this mad man. I think back to all those times I thought about just getting a drink at work, never showing up again, just collecting my check. But nope. There is a computer right behind me. I think that maybe, just maybe, if I keep this nut talking, I can type help. I reach behind myself. Slowly. Simon at this point is at the point where he's quoting Bible verses and saying he knows the technocrats. Technocrats? What the fuck? I used to be pretty good in typing class, so I'm hoping I'm hitting the right keys. Ch, E, K, no, backspace. And then I see those crazed eyes glance down at my hands. He pulls the gun out and points it at my head. More Bible verses. He's spitting on my face. At this point, I have accepted that I'm most likely going to die. "I'm not on this earth long enough to play games with you," he says. "Yeah, okay." He grabs my hand, squeezes tight. He's actually rather strong, and I'm afraid he'll break my hand. Oh shit. I look behind me and notice some of the computers have been turned off. I guess that's why Simon came back, to turn them off. I wonder if Paul ever got my voicemail. I wonder if I would have ever been anything other than a decently paid janitor? Probably not. Simon/Chuck has gotten to the point where he's rambling in gibberish. I'm about to make a run for the door. If you're gonna shoot, shoot, don't talk. But then I see the flash, red and blue, police lights, after I talked with whomever on the computer. I sent Paul a voicemail. Basically, I said that if you don't hear from me after every shift, something weird is happening and he should check it out. So after every shift, I texted him, and he never responded. But lo and behold, he did check his voicemail and texts when it really counted. 2 cops enter the building, screaming at Simon/Chuck to drop his gun and put his hands up. He doesn't. They continue to shout. Simon isn't talking anymore, he's just shaking and looks like he's about to explode. I see Paul outside by the window, looking in between the 2 stems of the Y in Youth Center painted on the window. As I'm looking, I hear a bang, and on the floor is Simon. Holy fucking shit. I overhear one of the cops saying he had begun raising his weapon, so I guess he basically committed suicide by cop. I've read shit about Waco, Jim Jones, but nothing like this. The cops rush over to me, ask if I'm all right. Yeah. Do I need anything? No, I'm good. After an experience like that, I obviously did not feel like working for the town of Cari again. I eventually found another job. Factory work up north near Chicago. Last time I was in Cari was a few months ago for my dad's birthday. The youth center is a pizza place now. Just for shits and giggles, I decided to try it. I went in, ordered Cari out, and as the lady put in my order, I noticed something. She was doing it on an old Dell Optiplex.
So much goes on offstage and behind the scenes to ensure that the guests have the most magical times of their lives once they arrive on the property. Ever seen a wet paint sign while walking through the parks? How about a maintenance cast member with a bag of tools? Anyone with a construction hard hat? Of course you haven't. That would ruin the experience that Walt Disney World is perfection. It's because that 99.99% of all work goes on after the show is over. All the little mice that keep the place running like clockwork don't even start working until the announcement is made over the radios we carry that the park is now clear. Then the crews get to work. Maintenance starts buzzing around on their golf carts. The custodial cast members bring out the large hoses to wash down every inch of the streets we all walk on. And the construction crews are allowed past the security perimeter gates to come in and do whatever needs to be done. That's where my story begins. I've worked construction most of my life. When work dried up north, I moved to Florida, where some of my family had moved over 10 years ago. Naturally, I needed to find a job. I wound up applying for and getting hired by a construction company that shall remain nameless, that literally did almost all of the construction needs for the corporate mouse. I spent 5 or 6 overnights a week at various locations at Walt Disney World with co-workers. We weren't employed by Disney, hence we were not cast members, doing whatever our foreman told us what needed to be done. Sweet gig, actually, even though it was very hard work at times. Just think, how many people can truly say they get to ride around Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, etc., in the dead of night in trucks, golf carts, what have you, while the park is just about empty except for a skeleton crew? For about the first 6 months, I kind of kept to myself except for talking with the crew of the company that I worked for. Then I began noticing how chummy many of the Disney overnight crew was with our staff. Custodians, when working in the same areas as us, would come and talk to the boys as well as the overnight security cast members. I began to slowly get to know many of these folks as well. They, for the most part, were really nice. I got to know many of the night security staff, by face at least, at all 4 parks as well as the resorts. If you didn't know, Walt Disney World opened in 1971. It was actually not too uncommon to come across someone who had been a lifer with Disney or knew someone who was. 40-plus years working for the mouse. God bless him. Even my foreman, who although did not work directly for Walt Disney World, was one of these. Boy, did they have some stories to tell to pass the time. As I adjusted more to the job, I began to get more comfortable with the surroundings. The cast members grew more social towards me, and I was able to make my way through the parks without getting lost too. Let me tell you, that is not an easy feat when you first start out working there, especially at night. Although it's not pitch black, there is very minimal lighting except where we put our floodlights up to do work. Security is only using flashlights or the headlight of their carts to light their ways, and store lights are only on if someone is working in them. Quite eerie, and yet cool at the same time. It's like a totally different place than during operating hours. As a matter of fact, one time when I decided to visit the park as a guest, I couldn't find a ride that I wanted to go on because it looked so different during the day with all the colors, people, sounds, and music. 1 year of working at the place full time, and I had to swallow my stupid pride and go get a map. Ha ha, pathetic. Anyway, as I started conversing more and more with the cast members, some of the security staff and I found out that we had a mutual interest in the paranormal. Of course, that would come up in conversation eventually, when working graveyard shifts. Ha ha. I would get to hear stories from them all the time. The famous ghost in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride. The murder/suicide in one of the rooms of a certain resort. The jumping off of terraces at another. Ghosts of cast members who passed on that come back and say hi. The spooky occurrences at rides where some unfortunate guest was killed. The stories went on and on. Although fun to hear, I won't lie. It did give the whole property an ominous feel at times that a guest will never get to experience. Even co-workers of mine had stories to tell. Attractions turning on, even though the lockout-tagout system is in place to ensure that they don't. Following someone to a break room and walking in to find no one in there. Of course, the noises and voices when they were working alone. Ghost hunters jackpot. So several months ago, when arriving at work, the foreman called our team over for a meeting. He announced we would be starting a new assignment in the Magic Kingdom shortly. we would be working on the Seven Dwarves Mine Train ride. This attraction would be opening later in the year. How exciting. Up until now, my crew, since I had started with them, had been doing mundane yet necessary assignments. We had the pleasure of pouring concrete, digging ditches, fixing bathrooms. Good stuff. Now, we were actually going to get to work on an attraction. Imagine me getting to tell my future wife and children that I helped make this as we were riding it. They would be in awe and so proud. The building was already up for the most part, and we were going to be working on making it show-ready. You know, making a building look like a mine inside and out, fabricating rocks, fixating jewels, the works. When the time came to start this, he had us meet in one of the cast member break rooms inside the attraction. For those that don't know, most if not all attractions have break rooms inside them that the public can't see. A cast member working the ride literally doesn't have to leave it if he or she doesn't want to, even for a lunch break. He explained the job, who would be doing what each week, and all the normal details. Then he proceeded to tell us that as per Disney management, we were to all take our lunch breaks at 3 a.m. and to only take it in this particular break room we were in. I thought that was kind of weird. Since my employment with them began, we were never told when and where to take lunch. We used to always stagger our breaks as well, so that most of the crew was always working. Whatever, I guess. The mouse paid our bills, and who the hell was I to question it? I was still the rookie, but I will say this. I saw what I was thinking in the eyes of my coworkers as well. We were only a group of 10 guys on this assignment, and we were broken up into groups of 5. One group would work on the outside, and one group on the inside of the attraction. I was in the inside group. It was a pain to work in that thing. Due to the size of the spaces where we had to work, maybe 1 or 2 floodlights would fit in an area where we were working. It gave an effect of staring into a fire in the woods. While working on a wall, it was bright as hell. When you came out of that space, you were as blind as a bat. The first few days, it became a running joke/contest of who tripped on something and broke their ass the most each week. Had to pay for the drinks when we went out together. I paid up twice the first month. Thanks, Disney. I guess you could call me paranoid, but I would never leave my lunch bag in the fridge in the break room. I'm an absolute angry asshole if I get hungry, and after having it stolen once while at Animal Kingdom, I was not going to have it happen again. So I just carried it with my other gear from then on. We were working on the opposite side of the attraction from the break room, and it was just about lunchtime. We cleaned up all the possible trip hazards and went on break. When we got to the break room, I realized I had left my bag where we were working. Damn it. There was no way I was spending $8 on a Coke and stupid bear claw from one of Disney's rip-off vending machines. I told the guys I was going to run back and get my bag. So off I went. I was hurrying along because we only get a half hour for lunch, and if we take even a minute longer to get back to our work location, there is hell to pay. And you all know how fast a half hour flies by unless you're working. Trying to make good time, I must have made a wrong turn in all that blackness. My stupid flashlight was in my tool bag. Of course. I was attempting to feel my way around the track when I saw some light coming up ahead of me. They looked like they could be a set of emergency lights, but they were quite dim and flickering. Who cares? Any port in a storm, right? I slowly made my way towards them and began to hear voices, but I couldn't make out any words. There was no one in the attraction other than us, or so we were told. Oh my God! After all the stories I was told, was I finally going to have one of my own? As much as I felt the hairs on my neck stand up, I was excited as well. Even though I really like hearing about ghosts, I can't say that I am really, truly afraid of them. I just don't want them in my home. Other than that, I find the idea of them fascinating. I slowly peeked my head around the next corner. I wish to God it was a ghost I saw. It was a large, at least compared to where we were working, open space, and there was a fabricated stone slab made to look like a natural rock formation in the center. 6 figures in suits were around it in a circle. 5 were holding candles, while one was reading off what looked like an old piece of parchment. What he was saying was beyond my knowledge. Not English from what I could hear. Every time the main suit would finish a sentence or two, the others would repeat the last word. As I crouched there amazed, I saw what looked like a flash of yellow and blue stirring from on top of the altar. There was someone on it. A woman. She stirred again, and I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. It looked like one of those college program kids that get to be friends with the characters. Completely dressed as Snow White. She was gagged and bound. What the hell was I seeing? Her eyes were huge and filled with fright. Tears were streaming down her face, making her overly done makeup run. As much as she struggled, she could barely move. The man with the parchment stopped reading. The others all produced some crudely made daggers and made their way to her. 2 of them went to each of her arms, 2 to her legs, and 1 stood at the top of her head. The leader, for lack of a better word, made a gesture with his hands and said one more incomprehensible word, and the others moved in. The 2 by her arms sliced her arms from mid-bicep down to the wrists. 2 others did the same from mid-thigh to the tops of her feet. The 5th one actually carved what looked like a half moon into her forehead. I stifled a scream and closed my eyes. I could hear muffled screams and smell copper in my nostrils and taste it in the back of my throat. I opened my eyes briefly to see the leader produce a knife, walk over to the altar, and lift poor Snow White's chin up toward him. That's when I turned and ran. I got back to the break room, sprinting through the door. I must have looked half crazed because one of my buddies said, "What the hell happened to you, and where's your lunch bag?" I didn't even answer him. I just stood there. He looked me over one more time and decided to call the foreman over the radio to come talk with me. The foreman came in, took one look at me and asked if I was feeling okay. I shook my head. He told me to go home for the remainder of my shift. I called out sick the next 3 days. In the comfort of my home, I attempted to rationalize what had happened. It had to be a gag, right? Was it my boys with an elaborate welcome to the crew trick? I mean, God, Walt Disney World is crammed full of college program kids, late teens and early 20-year-olds away from home and college, getting paid crap just so they can put Disney on their resumes, just fornicating and causing havoc every chance they get, playing tricks so they can put it on Theor blogs or Twitter or whatever else stupid things they use to get attention. Had to be. On my first night back to work, I literally had to force myself not to turn my car around at the security gate when the guard opened it for me to enter. When I got to the break room, one of the lifers I worked with was sitting there seemingly waiting for me. He told me to clock in, leave my stuff with him, and go meet the foreman over by the main entrance. I looked at him quizzically since it was pretty far from where the mine was, and it was heavily frowned upon for us non-cast members to be found wandering far from where we were assigned. I stated as such, and he just said, "Go. You'll be with your boss, so it would be his ass and not yours if someone says something." I made my way over to the main entrance and found him under the train station, sitting on one of the benches. He told me to sit. We sat there for about 5 minutes without speaking. He lit up a cigarette, and I did as well. During night shift, you could get away with this if you were careful about it. He asked me what had happened to me the other night. I just shrugged, looked at the newly hosed down ground, and exhaled. He put his hand on my shoulder and said that I was a great coworker. The other guys all liked me a lot. He didn't want to lose me, and that he was surprised I came back after the way I had looked. I told him that it wasn't far from the truth. He asked me if I was just sick, or if something had happened. He also asked me if maybe a cast member manager had given me a hard time, and if so, he'd handle it. I shook my head and said that he wouldn't believe me and would probably fire me for being a nut if I told him. He then said something that made me feel it was okay to tell my story. He said, "I've worked here since it was just flat land and dirt roads. Nothing you say can shock me." I looked up at him, dead in the eyes. When I saw that he was telling the truth, I began to explain everything from the beginning. I ended the story when the other guy told me to come see him. My foreman sat there, flicked his cigarette butt, and ground it onto the floor. A huge Disney no-no. He had sat there nodding through the entire story, not interrupting once. Never once a smirk, a smile, a look of disbelief. A custodial truck happened to drive by, and when the headlights flashed on us, I had seen that all the blood had seemed to drain from my foreman's face. He breathed in and exhaled once, from the mouth. He had the beginnings of tears in his eyes. He finally spoke. "What I'm about to tell you, kiddo, not many here have been here long enough to know, and those who do know almost never speak about. It's sort of a taboo subject, and the few that do talk about it are too old to care or have had one too many scotches." He smiled half-heartedly at this, and I thought maybe he might stop, but he continued. "I have lived in this area for almost 80 years. I have barely been out of this state, less times than I can count on one hand. Orlando has only looked this way for a short time. If you could have seen this land in the time I grew up here, you would be amazed. Marshland and orange groves, nothing else. Until Uncle Walt decided this was the spot for his next incredible theme park, there was practically nothing. Humans have been inhabiting this land for a very long time. The Ayes, the Apalachee, the Calusa, the Timucua, the Tocobago, all native Indians that lived in or around the land you are sitting on right now. The Paleo-Indians were here before them. Ancient lands. Well, I'm no historian, but I guess them Indians at some point figured out this land was a little spoiled. Spoiled as in not just bad, but spoiled as in how a little child throws a tantrum if it doesn't get its way. At some point, when these cultures were not having good weather or crops, what have you, they figured out that a blood sacrifice could do the trick. Every time they built a large structure in this area, they drew blood. But for whatever reason, the sacrifice had to do with the structure being built. For example, if the Indians were building a religious structure, a shaman had to be sacrificed. If a settler was building a barn or orange grove, a farmhand had to be the one. You get me? And it had to be done by the elders of the town. Couldn't be done by just anyone, but by the elders/most influential ones in the area. You ever seen that movie Pet Sematary by Stephen King? Like that, but the important people involved. Do you know the story about Disney buying this land? He bought it not under the Disney brand, but hundreds of pseudo companies. He didn't want anyone to know he was going to build a theme park here because the locals may not have sold as cheaply as they did. So he did what he did. I wonder if, through all this half-truth bargaining, if him or his round table executives ever wondered why so many were willing to sell at that price. Were they done having to do the despicable to make a profit here? Did many of them want out? It can really make you wonder. And how come supposedly no one dies at Disney? How come all people are proclaimed dead off the property? And why do we hire so many college kids that are supposedly running rampant here? Think about it. I just gotta tell you, because I think you may deserve it after you've seen what you claim to. The powers that be here are powerful. More powerful than just being Disney executives. They pretty much rule everything. You think Club 33 is exclusive? He laughed, but with no humor. The club you stumbled upon rules more than just a theme park. If you talk about what you've seen, your life may be in danger. I just sat there, trying to soak in what I had just heard. This was insane. And then my foreman said one more thing before the last sentence I ever said to that nice man. If you think that was bad, just imagine what I heard as we were building It's a Small World. I swear I still hear those screams of those kids once I close my eyes at night. 40 years after, my reply, I quit. Ah, the magical world of Disney. I still get the shakes when I think about it. I hate every fucking Disney commercial that comes on TV, and they come on a lot. I get goosebumps every time. I see that Universal's hiring. I need work. Should I apply?
Sacrificing kids, not homeless or immigrant workers who no one will look for. Nice planning there, Walt.
In before, I didn't read the text. Immigrant workers are from other countries, which ties into the traveling through countries. And it's a small world, so the sacrifice/ritual will still work. Who did they sacrifice for the haunted mansion, though? Or the gift shop?